Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. Jeff Wiggins, a man who claims to have an architect that knows how to speak Japanese and friend of the show, recently posted a video about his time at TYT. His video got me reflecting about my time there. We encountered a lot of the same struggles, and in it, I think are important lessons. To all the people who are going to accuse me of trying to cancel TYT, I'm flattered you think I have that ability. There's no way my tiny little channel will have an impact on TYT ratings, and that's not what I'm trying to do. If TYT fills a need in you, entertains you, or you find it inspires you, I'm glad for you. I'm not trying to take that away. TYT does a lot of good bringing attention to important issues. We agree on most things. A lot of wonderful people do wonderful work there, and I wish TYT all the success in the world. Having a leftist media corporation is important. However, there are a few things they have really bad takes on, to the point of being right-wing, and they refuse to grow on these issues. Some of these issues have hit me personally, which I'll get into, and it's why I can no longer support the network. I want them to change on these horrible positions and become a better representation of the left, not to be canceled, never to return. Given the nature of what TYT is, the only way that will happen is if it hits their bottom line. So I encourage others who want them to change to stop supporting them as well. I feel too many people have put TYT on a pedestal and rely on them to bring the leftist perspective. Fans of the show do so uncritically and are reluctant to believe that the network they put their faith into could be anything other than what they branded themselves, the home of progressives. However, Cenk is a proud capitalist, TYT is a corporation, and to think of them as anything other than that will lead to disappointment, like it did for me. Everyone's experience with TYT will be different. Some people have had overall wonderful experiences with them. Great. This isn't meant to minimize that. My experiences are of how contract workers are chewed up and spit out, and the struggles of being autistic in the workplace. I'm sharing my experience in hopes others will learn from it and not make the same mistakes as me. I don't want others to go through what I did. I want their experiences to be better. Before anyone types it into the comments, this isn't a woe is me. I'm not whining about what happened. But please, by all means, ignore what I just said because you're a troll who refuses to think deeper than a piss-filled litter box that's been baking in a tanning bed for the past week, and type into the comments, I'm a whining, ungrateful crybaby. It helps the algorithms and lets everyone know you're a dimwit. Why I'm no longer with TYT's Rebel HQ. The short of it is, my videos weren't performing well. They wanted videos that would get tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of views, with ones occasionally being in the thousands. I was making videos that got thousands and tens of thousands of views, with ones occasionally getting over 100,000. The long of it is, in the fall of 2021, on TYT's main show, they put out a call for content creators for their YouTube channel, Rebel HQ. I had the experience and equipment needed and thought I could bring an interesting perspective, me being Canadian. So I sent in an audition video. Months went by and I hadn't heard anything. I had moved on and wasn't thinking about it. Until one day, out of the blue, I got an email saying they were interested. This was the start of quite possibly the best few months of my life. What can I say? I've had a pretty shitty life. The validation I felt being part of a network full of people I admired, believing I could now do my part and get the progressive message out to a wider audience. TYT noticed me. This was the break most people dream of having and never get, and it was happening to me. I got the job and I felt an extra level of pride because I was their first Canadian content creator, something their audience had been asking for. So this must mean I have something special, right? The first interview I had was amazing. The person I talked to was caring and so encouraging towards me. The way they talked about my content and the potential they saw in me got me a little emotional, just I may have teared up just just a little. I had a part-time job at the time which paid pretty good. Even though the job was fine and the people there treated me fantastic, the commute was long and dangerous in the winter, and I wasn't happy there. I wasn't learning anything new. It was a small company, so I wasn't meeting new people. I wasn't growing as a person, and it wasn't fulfilling. Knowing I'd be unable to do both, I took a leap of faith and quit the job so I could focus solely on making content for Rebel HQ, which, at the time, was my dream job. Because of that part-time job, I had money saved up and was able to upgrade my equipment, something I had been planning on doing anyway. This just gave me the final push. In the first few meetings, I was told I'd have a producer and that they would send me clips and I could pick one to work with. Sometimes there'd be a secondary clip to use with the first one and related graphics. I was warned most of the time they would give feedback on how to improve the video and I would have to make a new version. I was so relieved by this. My biggest worry was having to find the clips myself, and I looked forward to the feedback. This would help me become a better content creator. A lot of my stress went away knowing someone would be reviewing the video and catching the big mistakes before it got published. I'd have help making the videos be the best they could be. I wasn't in this alone. At least, I wasn't supposed to be. Everything in the contract seemed reasonable, but honestly, I don't know. This was my first time being a contract worker in this field. I don't know what's normal for it. But I was fine with everything presented. I make the content, they have the rights to it, and they do all the publishing and promoting. Pay was a flat rate, and I would get bonuses if I got over a certain amount of views per month. I thought the number was crazy high, but I was assured it was easy to accomplish and that most creators were able to reach this. Again, I was good with this. Even though I knew the flat rate wouldn't be paying me well for my time. Between the research, double checking facts, scripting, recording, looking for media to add, and doing all the editing, it takes me a long time to complete a video. When worked out by hours, the flat rate would be below minimum wage for me. But I felt that was a me problem. I know other content creators can just blurt out a video and have it be great. I accepted this as a challenge to speed up my process. The other challenge I'd have was making short videos. Not exactly a forte of mine, as I'm sure you can tell by this video. And besides, with the bonuses, I'd have a decent pay for my work. I could trust what I was being told. This is the home of progressives. TYT, a network I had admired for years. They'll help me succeed and work with me because we share a common goal of spreading the progressive message. That's one of the goals, but it's not the goal. In case I haven't been clear, TYT is a capitalist corporation. Their top priority is to make a profit. Like many people starting out in a field, I was willing to settle for less, do more work than I was getting paid for to get that step up, the exposure, the learning experience, the opportunities this job would hopefully lead to. But when you start off accepting this, you've set yourself up for stress and burnout. If you're giving a company free labor of your own volition, they'll demand it from you later. I suggested I get a different chyron for my name. So instead of the American Stars, I would have the Canadian Maple Leafs. They thought that was a great idea, and we joked about American exceptionalism, as this didn't cross any of their minds. Everyone was so nice to me, and I felt like I was building a good rapport with everyone. I let them know about my autism and that I'm very direct when communicating, and it's best if they do the same with me. This is something I feel I have to warn neurotypical people about because they often mistake it as me being rude. But seriously, me being Canadian should be a dead giveaway because there's no such thing as a rude Canadian. I was so proud and giddy to be part of TYT. I was telling people I just met, like, have you heard of TYT? It's a thing. It's on YouTube. Have you heard it? No? Okay, well, you should go on YouTube. It's like a big deal. I'm part of it now. I'm actually part of TYT. This is like the best thing ever. And I'd be driving around and just randomly be like, oh my God, I'm part of TYT. I can't believe it. And dancing in my apartment. And I was just so excited to get started. My first week was in March 2022. So, of course, that's when I got COVID. It didn't hit me hard, but I was feeling a bit of a mental fog, and I couldn't tell if it was from the COVID or from being overwhelmed with everything that was happening. I made my first video with a sign off plugging my YouTube channel. I was told I wasn't allowed to do that. The most I could say was, you can find me on social media as LeftoftheBox. This confused me because I've seen other Rebel HQ contributors plug their stuff. I was given some excuse that they were changing how they were doing things or something like that. A link to my channel was sometimes in the description box. Adding it wasn't something I had control of. I was disappointed, but figured people would find it in the description box or would look up my Twitter handle, which was on screen, and from there they'd find my YouTube channel. I was so naive back then. My first video dropped. In it, I was calling out Justin Trudeau. It got over 200,000 views, well over the view count they were hoping for per video. I was in an emotional state I never felt before. Just pure elation. Unfortunately, that didn't last long. My second video only got around 4,000 views and issues began popping up. For the first 2 weeks, the only thing I was sent were headlines. Then it was on me to find clips related to them. I had to ask for clips, even though I had been told I would be sent a bunch first thing in the morning. But I had to push for them. The majority of clips I used were ones I found, including the one in the first video. Searching for clips added a lot more time to the work I was doing for them. Communication was difficult because it relied on email. My phone plan doesn't include texting to the United States. It could be a day or more before I would hear back about a question. I still watched a lot of TYT programming, and I was feeling, I don't know, let down, perplexed, that I was never mentioned. The other contributors would get shout-outs. Almost all of them were guest hosts on the other shows. Even when they read a message from the audience saying they wanted more international coverage, that they wanted to hear Canadian stories, not one time did they say, oh, we have a Canadian content creator over at Rebel HQ. Go check her out. Then one day, I was watching the main show and here was Cenk and Ana mocking a doctor for trying to use inclusive language. Birthing people. I'm non-binary, something I had been open about from the beginning. Yet they were mocking someone for trying to use language that would include people like me in the conversation, and Cenk was being extremely dismissive. If a right-winger tells me there's no such thing as non-binary or tries trolling me about it in any way, let's just say I'm not shocked, and generally I don't care. But coming from Cenk and Ana, people who claim to be progressive, claim to be allies, it hurt. There's a reason why TYT is losing its LGBTQ+ audience. Not surprisingly, I wasn't about to let that slide. I asked if I could go on the main show, maybe during the members-only content, to talk to them about it, or I can make it into a Rebel HQ video. If none of that had been an option, I would have made my own video about it for my channel. Well, it was arranged for me to go on the conversation with Cenk so I could address it with him. I had only been with Rebel HQ for a month, so I knew I was taking a chance being vocal about this. But Cenk always claims to be open to discussion and hashing out disagreements. My appearance was scheduled for a few weeks later. None of my videos were performing anywhere close to what my first one did, but I had no reason to think anything was out of sort. Then I had my first meeting and found out I was at the bottom of video performance. This caught me off guard because the only feedback I got from my producer was that my videos were good or great. The only time there was a second version was when I caught a mistake. But since he seemed to like what I was putting out there, I didn't think I had anything to worry about. My stress began to skyrocket. Next was my appearance on the conversation. I was nervous as hell. I admired Cenk and had been looking forward to meeting him and the others at TYT, but I didn't want it to start off like this, confrontational. I'm not a debater. I didn't know what to expect, and I somehow had to get my points across in the 14 minutes of dialogue we had with each other. That's when I told him he was being dismissive of part of TYT's LGBTQ plus audience. I thought I did a decent job. During our conversation, he was again being super dismissive of what I was saying, but we only had a few minutes left to talk, so I didn't have time to push back the way I had wanted. His attitude of, there's not enough of you for it to matter, was painful. I've broken this down in another video I did for my channel. We're not an insignificant part of the population, and it shouldn't matter. It's hard to exist in society when you don't exist in the language. Adding a few words so we're included isn't a big ask. Also, if you go back and watch the conversation, notice at the end, Cenk didn't say, "So where can people find you?" Even then, I couldn't plug my YouTube channel. It was on the Chiron for a moment at least. He said he loved having the conversation, but now I'm left wondering if it harmed my chances of getting onto the other shows. Cenk has become more and more open about his disdain for the radical left, especially people who are extreme trans activists, which according to him and Ana is anyone standing up for trans rights. Was I labeled as a reactionary, someone who would make something out of nothing and cause trouble, even though this was an issue that directly affects me? Was I seen as someone to be wary of, someone who may take a turn at any moment and have unreasonable takes for the sake of attention? I don't know anymore. My videos continue to underperform. Occasionally one would do well, which would help, but the overall trend was low. I got more frustrated because they would tell me I need to make changes to what I do without telling me what change to make. Be more dynamic, whatever that means. Follow directions from your producer. I wasn't getting any. They even admitted there's no magic bullet. I was doing nothing different in the videos that performed well versus the ones that didn't. I had no control over the thumbnails and titling. I felt some of the titles they came up with were misleading. Sometimes I'd make suggestions on what words to use because it related to my videos and were trending on Canadian Twitter. Okay, so we don't really have a Canadian Twitter. It's more like Justin Trudeau stan saying he can do nothing wrong and that every lie he says is true and virtuous. And Pierre Poilievre stan saying he can do no wrong and that every lie he says is true and virtuous. And then there's everyone else with the ability to think critically. Seriously, whenever Justin and Pierre talk, they say nothing and they do what will benefit their ilk while telling the people it will benefit them. It never does. I reached out to other creators to get advice. Only Jeff and Bennie got back to me and they offered me great tips and support. I got way more from them than I did my team. But something I've heard from the other contributors, other people starting off at the network, is how people established within the network would reach out to them behind the scenes and offer encouragement, take them under their wing type thing. I never got that. I felt invisible, like no one there knew I existed. I'd like to think I'm approachable, but I've been told I come across as standoffish. I don't understand how I'm doing that. It's part of my autism. So I don't know. Was it me? Did I do something wrong? So many people at that network I admired and was hoping to meet, did none of them see me as worthwhile? It was weird to be part of such a large network and feel so isolated from everyone. I got a new producer and hoped things would change. They didn't. I was being sent clips that were old, links that didn't work, clips that were hard to capture without the status bar showing, clips that had already been covered, clips that objectively weren't interesting. Meanwhile, I'd see the other contributors get fantastic clips to work with, ones I would have had a lot to say about. Why wasn't I getting sent those? Often when I was sent a clip, I'd seek out the full video for more information and sometimes found the clip was way out of context. Or there was another part of the video that was far more interesting. They sometimes recommend I use a sizzler to start with. That's a montage of quick similar clips. Because sure, I had the time to look through 30 hours of video to find clips of Marjorie Taylor Greene saying something stupid to put together for a 30-second bit. Also, I had been told I would be supplied with things like that. Multiple times. I sent them a long list of topics I enjoy and felt comfortable covering, then would be sent something about a random senator and taxes, things I'd have to spend time researching in order to even form an opinion. The majority of my videos that performed well were from clips I found. I was told to use more of what my producer sent me. I did, and I did my best with them. Still no improvement. Sometimes I had no choice but to make a video and cross my fingers that my producer would approve it because it was taking him so long to get back to me. Every time I sent in a video, I said, let me know if it's good or what changes you would like. Often I wouldn't hear anything back and only found out it was approved when it went live, which could be days after I sent it in, well after the story had stopped trending. I had to push to be told when my videos would go live so I would be ready to promote them on my social media. I questioned why my videos were always being posted after 10 p.m. and told that doesn't affect the numbers. But I know it does. And if it didn't, why not change it up? Let's see if mine would perform better if it was released at a prime time. And something that bothered me was, here we have TYT, the largest online progressive network, sending us clips that were piggybacking off the success of other leftists like Trey Crowder and the Good Liars. They weren't getting a cut from the videos we were making off of their content. People weren't directed to go check them out. Depending on who published the video, links to the original clip or creator would be in the description box, but we all know how well that works. But since those videos tended to perform well, or videos about viral TikToks, we'd be sent those. Rebel HQ was becoming a TikTok reaction channel. Reminder, TYT is a corporation with a bottom line. Clicks over substance. I was hoping I could find a balance between making these clickbait videos with ones that were more meaningful but might get fewer views. Pride Month. When corporations show they like money no matter who it's from by adding rainbows to their logo. It's a good way of showing support without giving support. Since TYT is a progressive corporation, they take it one step further by having a Pride special. Being one of the few queer presenters on the network and not being invited to partake in it, or even mentioned, was disappointing. I was so frustrated. I felt that if the wider TYT audience became aware of me, the Canadian contributor, it would help my numbers. I asked a guest host on the other shows and said it would be a good way to bring attention to my videos and that Pride Month would be an ideal time to do that. I don't feel comfortable posting the reply email as it was a private exchange. So to sum it up, thank you for showing interest in guest hosting, but it's best to focus on collaborating with your producer to improve average views on your video. Utilize the pitches sent to you and do more research, gain more confidence with your knowledge of American politics while bringing your perspective as a Canadian. I understand American politics quite well, thank you. Canadians tend to pay more attention to that than we do our own politics. There's an opportunity for you to bring more energy to your videos. So what you're telling me is that you've never watched any of my videos. Because if you did, you know I do. A whole hell of a lot. I do. The contributors who have successful videos and have achieved bonuses are those who have leaned into content strategy from their producers and generally have dynamic energy, like Person A, one of our top performers, and is not a guest host. Only he had been featured on the main show plenty of times, and I get the feeling he's not all that interested in guest hosting. Person A covers stories that are trending, pitched by his producer. Then that's something my producer needs to work on. Send me clips that are trending. Person B's videos had accrued millions of views consistently before he began guest hosting. Person B, who has an extensive background in media, And both of these people have massive social media followings that no doubt helps bring attention to their videos. We have a process, and when I feel the time is right, you'll be connected to the other shows. Focus on building consistent success, as we know you can get there. How? I was getting no feedback from my producer on how to improve my videos. The only time I was asked to make changes was to make a 4.5 minute video shorter without any recommendations on what to cut, or I'd be told, bleep out the curse words. When I got any direction, I tried following it to the T. The direction I often got was, play this clip for 15 seconds, add commentary, then play this clip. Sometimes they weren't even related. Add commentary, show less of your face, loop this 20-second clip and talk over it for 2 minutes. I was told to ask for help, and as soon as I asked them to look for a video or information about whatever, I'd be told the producers are busy people and that's not something they do. I felt like I was everyone's lowest priority. I had a lot of passion, interesting takes. I was dynamic and funny, and yet I was constantly told I needed to do the things I was already doing. I was told to shoot some of my videos vertical, which is something I had to learn how to do with my editing program. The first one I sent them like that, I told them I did what you asked. Let me know if I did it right. I got no reply, and when I saw it on YouTube, I found it had exported from my editing program standard YouTube size, with black margins making up the difference. I didn't notice when I reviewed it on my desktop because it was the same color as the background of the video player. Like, were they even watching my videos before publishing them? I was told I needed to learn more about American politics, yet none of them were learning anything about Canadian politics. I felt like I was on my own for fact checking and finding mistakes, which is something I'm super paranoid about. My autistic trait of wanting to get every fact, every word exactly right was exacerbated. Regardless of their popularity, I had seen all the other contributors who started before me on at least one of the other programs. Rebel HQ contributors who started after me and had a smaller online presence than me were guest hosting. One person guest hosted before they even posted a video to Rebel HQ. Their appearance was to announce they were going to be part of the team. So what was that about it takes time? What was I doing wrong? Was I not pretty enough? Was I not young enough? What was the reason I wasn't good enough? I was constantly being compared to the other contributors who were successful, but when I looked at their videos, they were often doing things differently than what I was being instructed to do, but for them, it was okay. Of the clips I covered that were also covered by other contributors, quite often, mine got more views than theirs, yet my videos were underperforming. The thumbnails and titles, which is the primary way of grabbing views, was on them. I wasn't being promoted to the TYT audience. Media about the other contributors were posted on different platforms. During the commercial breaks, I would see these like tile cards of the other contributors. Cenk would give them shoutouts on the main show, but never me. It was on me to make my videos perform better when all the things that would have helped were things I had no influence over. I'd regularly shout out the other contributors on my social media. I felt we would all benefit if we did cross promotion, especially if one of the more well known people plugged a video of one of us who didn't have a big social media following. But they're all too busy for that. One of the other contributors covered a clip about Canada because, of course, clips relating to Canada weren't proposed to me first or at all. And he was chiming in about how polite and nice we are, even when yelling at each other. I thought it'd be fun to do a response video to that saying, yep, we are super polite and nice, while showing footage of us being anything but. Nope, can't do that. I was told I could no longer use clips from Canadian news media. The American audience wasn't familiar with them, so they wouldn't be as appealing. So the Canadian, covering Canadian issues, had to look for Americans covering Canadian stories. Remember what I said at the beginning about American exceptionalism? Seeing all of this typed out, it seems ridiculous now, but during all of this, I felt like it was my fault I was failing, that for reasons I couldn't understand, I wasn't doing a good enough job, and I couldn't tell anything was off because this is a common feeling when you're autistic. You see, They were always so nice to me in the meetings and would tell me they're doing everything they can to help me. They would ask me if I had any questions, but I didn't know the business well enough to know what I should be asking. I often told them I had to process what we talked about in the meeting before I could get back to them because I was so confused by what was happening. They would tell me the opposite of what they had told me in the previous meeting and constantly tell me I needed to do the things I was already doing. People who obviously weren't watching my videos were telling me how to improve them. Even back then, I felt like I was being gaslit, but I couldn't tell if it was only in my head. In the meetings, I wanted to be more direct and say I didn't feel like I was being supported by my producer, but since he was always so nice to me, I thought maybe he was supporting me and I just wasn't getting it. And because he always came across as so sincere and wanting me to succeed, I didn't want to put him on the spot and confront him at the meeting and make him feel bad. But if I were to go to people about it behind his back, wouldn't that have been worse? Also, if I became any more direct, I'd come across as rude. And I had told everyone to be direct with me, but I often couldn't make sense of what they were asking or suggesting I do with my videos. Were they being direct and I just wasn't getting it? Or did I need to tell them they weren't being direct and clear enough? But then would that come across as being too demanding? Was I not communicating properly? I thought I had been straightforward and told my producers what I needed or was struggling with or what I would appreciate from their end, but maybe I hadn't made myself clear. Or maybe it was the COVID, that somehow the COVID had messed me up, so I'm not as sharp as I used to be. Maybe if I had never gotten COVID, I'd be doing just fine, but there's no way for me to know. So maybe it was all my fault and it was on me to fix it. I just needed to pick up the slack and just be better at this. I, I had a bit of an autistic breakdown during all of this. Had to go to eMERGE to find out what I was feeling was stress and not a stroke. I got a prescription to help manage the symptoms and was back at it the next day. Luckily, here in Canada, that cost me nothing but time. I had intense anxiety about every video and how it performed, crossing my fingers that this would be the one to take off. Closer to the end of my time there, they suggested I make fewer videos and focus on making them the best they can be, like I hadn't been doing that with every video. Focus more on Trump. Trump always gets lots of views. Videos had to be just over 3 minutes long for monetizing reasons, but I shouldn't have ones much more than 4.5 minutes long, even though other contributors were regularly making videos closer to 10 minutes. But it was different rules for them for some reason. On top of all of this stress I was already under, I was having software issues. The editing program I had was crashing literally every 30 seconds to 2 minutes. I had to get in the habit of hitting Control S after every cut, every change I made. I had friends who tried to help me figure it out. That's part of the struggle with being a contractor. It's on you to fix tech issues or buy new programs. I didn't have the spoons needed to learn a new editing program, get it set up working smoothly when I was still learning the one I had. I had no job security. I was constantly worried my next video would be my last. I didn't want to spend money on upgrades or new programs if the next month I'd be out of a job. The joys of contract work. You don't work, you don't get paid. So you tend to push yourself through sickness and lack of time off. At least in Canada, we have some universal health care, which gives me far more wiggle room than my peers in the States. I can't imagine how much higher my stress would have been if I had no health insurance or it was tied to my employer. Despite all of this, everything I just said, I really loved what I was doing. I'm proud of the work I did, and even though my videos didn't perform well, I feel my videos kicked ass. I had fun adding jokes and references only Canadians would get or teasing Americans about their lack of knowledge of Canada, making up insults for right-wingers, pushing myself to be bolder in my commentary. You know, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I feel like I had the funniest videos, but that could just be a cultural difference. Canadians would be laughing so hard they'd spill their maple syrup all over the moose they were riding, while Americans would be trying to figure out what a toque is, eh? I find American humor isn't very sophisticated and tends to be lowbrow. I'm joking. Not really. I was bringing attention to issues that are often overlooked, like It's one thing to have queer folks or people living with disabilities bringing their perspectives to the story of the day, and it's a good thing to do. But it's not enough to have people on staff to serve as tokens, especially not for a progressive network. It's important to cover the stories and issues that directly affect us and have us commentate on them. We understand the issues because we live them. Specifically, people with disabilities. We're allowed on team and to comment on stories so long as we can hide our disability from public view. How often do you see a media personality with a visible disability? A person in need of an assistance device in order to communicate? My disabilities are mental health related, so are invisible, but they are very real and affect every aspect of my life. So long as I don't make others uncomfortable, it's all good. For them. I've also had times of physical disability preventing me from doing things, and I have many friends with all sorts of disabilities. Most people will have a disability at some point in their life, yet how often are stories about disabilities covered? And I mean, other than it being a footnote to the main story. You know how they tell people not to read the comments on their videos? Well, I read my comments. They are what encouraged me and motivated me to keep going. I got this comment on one of the videos I did about disabilities. As someone who is highly reclusive by necessity due to disability, this is the first time I have felt seen by a non-niche media source concerning my social situation and related issue. I can't say how much it means to me. Thank you. This is why I do what I do. To help give a voice to people like me who are struggling to survive and are ignored by the politics of the day. I had people reach out to me, thanking me for speaking out or helping them to better understand someone in their life or their own situation. People who no longer felt alone. They let me know how my video lightened their day or how they learned something new. The comments I got were part of the reason I was so confused as to why my videos weren't performing well. They were overwhelmingly positive. Reading the comments made me feel better about what I was doing. Sure, I got some negative attention, people saying I look like Marilyn Manson, but unlike Marilyn Manson, I didn't have to pay for this complexion. Or people saying I look like a vampire queen of the dead type stuff. They were literally calling me the thing I dress up as every Halloween. It's not the insult they think it is, more like a compliment. People commenting they don't like my makeup. So? Don't wear it like me then. I like my style. I'd occasionally get people calling me a groomer or some anti-queer comment. Whatever. People calling me a liar without ever saying what the lie was. But for every negative comment I got, there were many more commenting on my Klingon dictionary, my slinkies, laughing at the jokes I made, and so on. If the people watching my videos liked them so much, then what was I doing wrong? I feel if I had been promoted and people knew I was there, my videos would have taken off. I learned a lot from my time at Rebel HQ. I gained tools and tightened up my style. I got to meet Jeff and Bennie. I was able to get my message to a wider audience. I was very fulfilled, and I wanted to keep the job. Despite my best efforts, my videos weren't doing what they needed to keep me sustainable at the company. The money they were paying me was better off going to another project or person, something that would give them a higher return. When they tell you who they are, believe them. TYT is a capitalist corporation. They'll do what it takes to make money while maintaining their brand as the home of progressives. In my last week there, I was finally allowed to plug my YouTube channel at the end of my videos. On my last day, Cenk gave my channel a shout out on the main. My second last video also got over 200,000 views and was also about Canada. Feels like a fitting bookend. My last video was me saying farewell, for now. There was a chance I'd be back. I appreciated they allowed me to do that. Not all the contributors got to. I appreciated the amazing opportunity they gave me. They were so supportive and nice to me at the end. I felt like they believed in me, but not enough to do the things necessary to promote my videos. The door was left open for me to return in some capacity. So, earlier this year, when Cenk and Ana went on their anti-trans birthing people tirades, I knew that by making the videos calling them out on my channel, I was welding that door shut. But I couldn't stay quiet. As for the home of progressives and all the people there I admired, I was so disappointed that the ones with job security, the ones that Cenk and Ana would have listened to, said nothing. They didn't push back in any meaningful way. This was their chance to show they live their values and stand up for vulnerable people in their audience. I was disappointed because I thought they were something different than the capitalist corporation they are. This is why I appreciate Lance from the Serfs, David Dole, Mike from the Humanist Report, Ole, everyone over at the Majority Report, just to name a few. When people like me were under attack from a so-called ally, they're the ones who spoke up and pushed back. They're the ones who showed up, and for that, I'm forever grateful. I also have all the respect in the world for Bennie for making her stand, and to the TYT mods who resigned en masse to protest what was happening at the network and how they had been treated. I've linked to their resignation statement in the description box. Please go check out all the things I put in the description box, eh? I've also linked to Jeff's stuff. I want to give him a special thanks. He really helped me through a lot of what I was dealing with, and he was so supportive to me behind the scenes. I thought I had landed my dream job. I was part of the largest online progressive network in the world, their first international contributor. That must mean I have something special, right? A unique talent or an appealing style, right? Turns out I was nothing more than spaghetti being thrown against the wall. Just another contractor they could squeeze for content and toss away when something shinier showed up. My experience with TYT hasn't stopped me from doing what I can to help people get informed and get involved. I learned from it. I won't go through that again. And I hope to help other people understand no organization, network, person is above being looked at critically. I hope this helps people better understand the struggles of being a contractor, especially when it's your first time taking on a job. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Reach out to others if you need to. Have people around you who can help you stay objective. I hope this helps neurotypical people better understand the difficulties neurodivergent people can have with communication. We struggle in ways you can't see. We often hide our confusion because we're worried we won't be accepted for who we are. We're constantly told we're the ones that need to make other people comfortable. If you want to have a truly inclusive workplace, you need to put in the effort and meet us halfway. Every person with a disability has different needs. It's important you work with us to make things accessible. There's no such thing as working in a dream job, because once you have it, it becomes reality. And reality can be difficult, unpredictable, painful, but it can also be wonderful in ways you could have never imagined. It's important that when your job involves your passions, not to let a bad experience spoil the joy you get from what you do. I love content creating, covering Canadian politics and social issues with sarcasm and sass, while bringing my perspective as a queer person living with disabilities, speaking truth to power, doing my part to help bring positive progressive change. I have no intentions of stopping. Don't forget to hit buttons and leave comments. I also do live streams covering Canadian shenanigans, news, and other stuff. I'm still working out the when, so follow me on these social media platforms for notices. I'm an artist. Go to SandeeLovas.com to see what I do. So far, my only customer has been my mom. I'd like to improve on that. If you can, please support my content by becoming a patron. I also have a wish list of all sorts of things. Things to help build this studio, art supplies, things for my cats, or little things you can purchase to show your appreciation. All of these are linked in the description box below. Every little bit helps. A special thanks to those of you who already have. I recently had to take my 15-year-old cat Frodo to the vet. He's doing all right for now, but he's not out of the woods. There's a very good chance I'll have to take him back for tests and possibly surgery. He's my light. He's helped me get through so much. I'm not ready to lose him. If he has something that can't be fixed, I need to do it. I live with disabilities and poverty. In a wealthy country like this one, No one should be put in the position of having to ask strangers to help pay bills to keep our loved ones healthy. I'm struggling. If you can, and only if you have the extra money, please help cover his vet bills. You can send money to the PayPal linked below, or if you're Canadian, you can send an e-transfer to SandeeLovas@gmail.com. PayPal doesn't always let me message people who send money, and I don't know of a way of sending a personal message to people who do an e-transfer. So please know, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for any help you're able to give. Salut, à la prochaine! Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.